Let's bring in the author of The Machine, a field guide to the resurgent right, our friend Lee Fang. Thanks, Lee, so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
So, my read of this is that, we saw Darrell Issa sort of losing credibility. He hasn't been able to connect, President Obama or the administration, Washington, if you will, directly to this whole investigation. But in a letter to Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, he did ask for, among other things, quote, all documents and communications sent by, received by, or copied to any employee of the Department of the Treasury between January 1, 2009 and the present, referring or relating to the establishment of the IRS Affordable Care Act office and the corresponding personnel and staffing decisions for the affordable care. Now, okay, this is not just some conspiracy, right? I mean, so Darrell Issa losing credibility, in comes the Tea Party to keep it going.
Well, that's right, Karen. Republicans, as you mentioned, have attempted to repeal the law 37 times and failed. They've tried to make things up about the law, like death panels, and that hasn't stuck. So now I think in an act of desperation to undermine the law, they're trying to link the IRS tax-exempt issue with the IRS department that's helping to implement Obamacare. There's no proof that this department did anything wrong, and I think in doing all of this and prompting another investigation, they're going to destroy any credibility they had left on this IRS issue.
Right. Well, and we know that also the IRS is going to need to hire additional people to help with the implementation of Obamacare. I believe it's 6 million Americans next year, low-income Americans, frankly, that they're going to need to help and make sure that the credits that they're available for are administered. But, as you saw this week, some say there's no link at all, nothing to see here. But then we saw Americans for Prosperity, one of these so-called grassroots organizations that you write about. They posted a petition on their website, Obamacare to stop IRS abuse. Now, this is one of the very same groups that sought 501c4 status from the IRS to keep its donors secret. And, of course, we now know the identity of some of these donors. This feels like hypocrisy at its best. Am I reading that right?
I think that's fair. We know that in the GOP House, it's not necessarily Speaker Boehner who calls the shots. It's increasingly very powerful Republican activists and billionaire-backed groups like Americans for Prosperity, funded, of course, by the Koch brothers. They're going out and demanding that Republicans link the IRS tax-exempt scandal, which they, of course, don't want to talk about because they're a kind of phony C4.
Right.
But they want to link this to Obamacare because they want to undermine the Affordable Care Act. So you have groups like Brent Bozell, Americans for Prosperity. They're going out and sending letters to lawmakers demanding this kind of linkage. And as you can see, Darrell Issa is more or less following those orders and attempting to do so.